Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill him! Kill them both! No, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
Well, thank you, Q, for coming on. I appreciate it greatly. Usually.
Thanks. Yeah, this is Q. I have two podcasts, Thoughts and Prayers. You guys have heard A on here a couple times and me a while back. And then I also have a podcast called Twink Death with Bicky, who's at Redacted Vampire on Twitter. So they're two very different projects, but if you guys want to check those out, you can.
Well, Vicky's also been a guest on the show, so there you go.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, of course. I kind of tortured A into like doing like a Qabala episode, but I think he had fun secretly. I mean, I don't know. He'll probably have told you already, but I think he had fun, and I think I pushed him. But I think it was a really cool episode in the end. So the second one, I mean.
Yeah, he did have fun. He learned a lot. So
he's quite smart in his own right.
Yeah, I agree.
But no, and so yeah, I like both of your podcasts. Obviously, you were generous enough to have me on Thoughts and Prayers like a long time ago, but it was great because actually it gave me a little street cred. So thank you. Right when I was starting out, so I really appreciate that. And thank you
Yeah, of course. Thoughts and Prayers is definitely a different pod than it was even a year ago. We're like monthly now, but we have a Substack, and you can get all the back episodes are on there. And yeah, we kind of transitioned. We added KB as a third mic, and we do more of like a once a month thing now. Twink Death just comes out whenever Bicky and I get to it, but that's more of a true crime podcast if that's your thing. So
awesome. Oh, I love that. And KB's also been a guest on the show. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Lots of friends. Yeah, lots
yeah, it's definitely been the cabal. Like I've had like a few people on for sure. Okay, so Q, what are we discussing today?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about 10 Things I Hate About You, starring Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. I looked it up because I was like, it's really giving 90s, and it did come out in 1999. So it was just on the cusp of the millennium. And yeah, it's like one of those classic sort of I guess we can call this the turn of the century now, because it was the turn of that century. Like rom-com films that used to be really, really, really good. I forgot how good they were when I watching this. I remembered like, wow, they really were fun and good to watch, because I feel like nothing that's being made now comes close to sort of the charisma and fun that these films sort of had.
I totally agree. And I have to say, I don't know if it's because of like my wing not past or anything like that, but I kept thinking when I saw Julia Stiles on screen, like, oh, but she rolled coal, obviously, because she did the movie with the guy with in the hood, and she's like the ballerina or whatever. I couldn't stop thinking of it. But no, I totally agree. And this was actually a really good rewatch, and the movie has everything. It has like hits all those things, like a good soundtrack, great location, and a movie set in Seattle. They have like there's a romance in it, I think so.
Yeah, well, I love Save the Last Dance, and I have
I'm
no
just teasing about that.
like I have no
I'm just being ironically racist, I guess.
Yeah, I'm firmly into all of Julia Stiles' career. It's interesting that she sort of like did the she did the whole like teen thing, and then I feel like lately has like really done very select roles. But it actually was filmed, I know it's meant to be Seattle, but it's actually was filmed in Tacoma, Washington, at this school called Stadium High School. And I remember when I was young, like thinking like, oh, this is like this has to be like that's like what high school should be like, it's like this beautiful school like right on the sound. But yeah, they otherwise they set it in Seattle, even though they film it in Tacoma.
It is interesting because it is kind of a pre-woke, quote unquote, like not to use boomer speak, but like whatever. There are little elements of it, like with the teacher and with the kind of girl power attitude, but this is really a film from the male perspective. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We can maybe go through it, like the plot of it.
Sure.
But
I'll let
I
you, whatever you want to do, Q. You take me on the journey.
yeah, I would say that it actually, I think it was like pre-woke in the sense that like it was more like 90s PC. Is the jokes they're making, right? Because the Julia Stiles character is supposed to be sort of like a 90s feminist character, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it was like I would say like before there was woke, there was political correctness. And I think the film is sort of like mocking or poking at that would be my argument.
There's a
And
tension.
yeah, but I guess just like, starting the film, so it's like if we're gonna go through the plot, it basically starts. It's a Seattle high school, a really beautiful Seattle high school, and you get the impression this is like an upper middle class sort of community. Obviously, really fast. I looked up the house that they live in. It's like a $3 million house now. But so yeah, my first note was like I forgot how cool Julia Stiles was. Like I forgot how like much of like a teen icon she was. So she's like this Sylvia Plath reading Riot Grrrl, like grunge sort of alt figure at this school. Although it's a little bit unrealistic because at any school, she would be so pretty that she would definitely be like sort of in like the popular group, which later in the film they do address that. You find out she was like formerly in the popular group. There's a very funny scene of so Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like the new kid at school, and the very opening scene is him talking with Allison Janney, who's the um guidance counselor. She's a guidance counselor who writes erotica. And she's sort of like introducing Joseph Gordon-Levitt to the school. And like the conceit of the film is that basically it's a retelling of Taming of the Shrew. So Julia Stiles' younger sister, per their father's rules, cannot date until Julia Stiles dates. So, and he's a doctor, an obstetrician who's scared of his daughters getting pregnant. And it's funny because like this is played like, rather than being something like alarming or like anti-feminist about this guy, this is played as just sort of like a goofy, overprotective father. Whereas now I feel like that would be played very differently. And this was still the era when teen pregnancy was like the big, like that was like the scare of the time. That was like the thing everyone was worried about at the time. So it was more normalized to like talk to your daughters in this way about sex and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's like the opening of the film, and those are kind of the three major players. Um, but what ends up happening, it's a little bit hard to follow. Hopefully, I'm just gonna say the actors' names because I think that's easier. But basically this popular boy wants to date Julia Stiles' sister, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt wants to date Julia Stiles' sister. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his friend convince the popular boy to bribe Heath Ledger, who's like the bad boy, into dating Julia Stiles so the younger sister can date. Wouldn't you say that's basically what the film is about?
I think that's what the film's about. I mean, that is at its core. It's like the primary archetypes, right? You have Bad Boy Joey or whomever he is. Then you have Heath Ledger. Then you
Right.
have Julie Stiles. Then you have the sister and the father. Those are like the primary actors, I'd say.
Right.
It just in terms of
Julia
yeah,
Stiles
exactly.
being the shrew.
Exactly.
And then
So it
one
closely
thing,
replicates the novel.
yeah, it does mostly replicate the novel. I liked how one thing I forgot that like every teen movie used to start with was like there's a new kid, and the new kid is walked around by someone and all the cliques are pointed out, right? Like this happens in Clueless, this happens in Mean Girls. So that does happen to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like he's walked around sort of the yard and all of the cliques are kind of like pointed out by him. So I really liked that at the beginning. And there was some really funny lines like yuppie greed is back, my friend. Like things that are like very yeah, like 90s, you know?
And would only a few years later become very taboo. Things to
Mhm.
like actually acknowledge.
Definitely, definitely. Um, so yeah, so Heath Ledger decides to take on the bet and try to get Julia Stiles to date him. Um, and it kind of like works basically. Like she does agree to go on some dates with him. And the first like thing he gets her to is he takes they he so basically I feel like I'm getting lost in the sauce, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his friend decide to throw like a party at this nemesis's house, and there's a great shot of them throwing the flyers down the staircase, and I forget what song is playing during that because it's like the soundtrack is incredible. um I can't even remember. I'm looking at the soundtrack right now. But anyway, there's tons of like very 90s like music in this movie. Anyway, he gets Julia Stiles to this party, and this little sister gets to go to the party, and they have like a really like kind of classic raucous high school party scene. Um yeah, and it just keeps going from there. Obviously, there's the big reveal. Julia Stiles finds out that Heath Ledger was being filmed, or not being filmed, sorry, was being bribed, and then at the end they fall in love. So I think that's kind of like like the beats,
Yeah. No,
But
I agree.
yeah, but it's I think what's fun about it is even though it has this like kind of classic um like sort of structure, I think what's fun about it is the like just the 90s aesthetic. I don't know, what did you think rewatching it?
So I obviously was trying to watch it in a way because I'm used to doing it more in an esoteric film review. So I tried to watch it in that way this time, and I've seen it quite a few times. Like I've definitely spent I've done the long yards in this film. But I thought for rewatch for this episode, I thought it was really great. I thought visually very appealing and hit all the cool notes, like what I would think was cool, like as like a younger child watching that or younger kid watching that. I thought it hit all the notes of what I remembered being cool. including the things she was into. So I actually kind of liked her character. I remember empathizing with her to a degree. So that is also interesting. And I thought it was fresh in a way because obviously we've deviated so far away from that. So it is kind of something old is something new, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think if like we harken back to our episode on the craft, like Julia Stiles' character is like the type of girl who would have like liked the craft, right?
Mhm.
And I remember also feeling the same way, you know, as a kind of whatever lonely gay boy or whatever. Like I remember feeling like Julia Stiles' character is like the type of girl like I would like to be friends with. And I was friends with girls like that. You know what I mean? Like I was friends with girls who read the bell jar and listened to r- whatever came after Riot Grrrl type of music, like Fiona Apple and things like that. And yeah, I think she's a great character in that sense. And everyone acts like she's so horrible, but I think she's actually like a pretty likable character. And she has like,
She's abrasive a little. I mean, she is.
she's abrasive, but like I thought it was funny how the teacher like so quickly like sends her out of the room and I mean the teachers obviously as in every teen movie, like the adults aren't supposed to be like realistic, right? Like none
And
of
they're
these
not. They're
they're
really
not
not.
they're not realistic. That's not a realistic teacher. This is not a realistic guidance counselor. But yeah, she's abrasive, but her critique of sort of like the high school social structure is accurate. And
I agree with that.
you find out later in the film that she actually slept with the popular boy when she was in freshman year. And it wasn't a good experience. Like it wasn't like nothing like an assault or anything happened, but she realized she was just doing it because she wanted to fit in, and that was her big turnaround. And she tells her sister that in like a very sweet scene, like don't make the mistakes I made sort of moment. So we learn that her critique of the high school social structure comes from like some real introspection. So
No, I agree with that. I think I mean I like, to be honest, I did not like their relationship. I found it like it was my least favorite thing. I liked her and Heath Ledger together. That's when I found that she, was more, I don't know, luminous. Like I even felt the camera looked at her differently when they were together. But maybe that's just like my how I think of things. But I don't know. I just felt she was freer with him. So I kind of felt like, in an interesting way, I may have gone from saying this movie presented like a anti-feminist critique to like more of like a post-feminist critique now in rewatch. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Just
yeah,
something I
I
thought
mean,
about.
it is interesting because, like, of course, she's most happy and complete, like, when she is, sort of giving in to like the Heath Ledger, um, kind of like the spell he's trying to place over her. And she's unhappy when she's trying just to like go against everything. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a movie. It's gonna say like the boy completes you. But I don't think I don't think it's like a bad message. It's like
No,
all
I think it's good. I think it's a kind of a resolution to like you want to call it like raunch culture or whatever we're in, like whatever incarnation we're in now.
Yeah, and like, it's a kind of wholesome thing because it's like he doesn't ultimately like the way they come around to is like he doesn't want to like change her, right? Like he loves her for like exactly who she is, which is like this abrasive kind of bitch. And like the only time he like doesn't like her is when she like at the party when she does stuff like get drunk because she's like, whatever, it's a party, I'm supposed to fit in, right? Like those are the times that we see he doesn't like her. She does have a pretty epic um drunk on the table dance scene, which
Mhm.
made me laugh to
Definitely does.
rewatch it.
It was very
And
90s.
very 90s. She's a very bad dancer. So it is kind of funny that she went on to do Save the Last Dance because she's not a very good dancer. Like we're supposed to believe like in Save the Last Dance, at least we're supposed to believe that she's like a very talented dancer, but she has like no rhythm. And there's actually been a lot of jokes about that, like on TikTok, like, you know, in recent years about like how bad, like truly how awful of a dancer she is. But yeah, no, anyway, I'm rambling, but like I agree that like the message of the film is sort of like post-feminist, and like it has like a, you know, feminism can exist alongside like loving men sort of message.
Yeah, I thought it resolved some of that. And I also thought it was interesting because it was like both of them, like her and her friend Mandela, which obviously is funny and interesting at the same time. But they both end up in love at the end. It wasn't just her. It wasn't, and it was also the sister. So there's kind of three points you could say of like where they met that conclusion or resolution.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about, I don't know if this is like esoteric exactly, but like after she does 10 Things I Hate About You, like her career, she sort of becomes the like Shakespeare remake actress for a
Mhm.
few years. So she does 10 Things I Hate About You, she does Hamlet, she does this movie O, which is a remake of Othello, which is actually like a pretty dark film. Um, so she's like for a couple of years, that's sort of like the kind of like where her career goes. She does all these different like sort of Shakespeare retellings for a couple of years. I don't know. I mean, Shakespeare is like sort of evergreen, you know, territory. But it is interesting. And then like Heath Ledger is also really fascinating if you want to get into like, you know, esoteric stuff, because I have always felt, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like I've always felt that like his death and all of that is like so weird and
It
suspicious,
is.
and like we don't really know like exactly what happened there. And you know, it's ironic because like Brokeback Mountain, for instance, which I feel like is what made him sort of a like maybe like a household name, like that's not even that far after this. That's like 3 or 4, that's like maybe 4 or 5 years after this.
Well, I have a confession. I've never seen it.
That's fine. But you know, I guess A Knight's Tale was big too. That was only a couple
Never
years.
seen it.
But yeah, and then he dies in this like kind of like
Yes.
sort of mysterious way. He's like
Mhm.
pretty young. He's only 28 years old. Mary Kate Olsen is the first person that the, you know, his maid finds him in his New York City apartment, and the first person she calls is Mary Kate Olsen, who directs a private security guard to go to the scene. Um, and it's just interesting because we never really hear anything else about it besides that. Like we don't know her involvement. We don't know, you know,
That's actually kind of crazy,
what
to be
happened.
honest.
Yeah, and it's strange that I mean the presumption that I think everyone makes about this is that, you know, probably because they were dating at the time, you know, probably they, you know, she probably was the one who procured like the drugs for him or whatever. Uh,
Allegedly.
allegedly, and like the housekeeper is the one who like knew that, so that's why she called her
Allegedly.
allegedly. Yeah, no, I mean, I have no proof of this. I'm just like, this is what the like I think the presumption is.
No,
But
absolutely. I'm down. We definitely, this is like part of it. Like this is a thank you. I know you're a master of the both the esoteric and political parapolitical decode because I've heard you on many episodes do so. So
yeah.
I thought this would be a great like kind of entree into like a discussion on that. And obviously, the Heath Ledger thing is very topical, and I think it is interesting. You were saying her career kind of took this turn where she was cast into darker roles. Well, the last thing I saw her in was that ITV series, about being married to a billionaire, and it was like she basically was like the wife, estranged wife, younger wife of this Monacan billionaire, and
Hmm.
he died in mysterious circumstances. And then so she had to sort of figure out where the secret money was because all the money was like frozen. It's kind of crazy, but I just think that they did cast her from this teen. She's never really American Pie looking, and I don't mean in the film. I just mean in the, the cliche that she's non-traditional looking, but I agree, she's very pretty, but just not
Yeah, she doesn't really have
usual.
like a girl next door look. She sort of has, I mean, it's a little surprising they didn't put her in more period films. I mean, she's in a few, but
Mhm.
she has sort of a period face, you know. I think the one they put her in, the most like period, the most famous period film they put her in was Mona Lisa Smile. Um which is a movie I
That's
like.
interesting too.
Yeah, but she does sort of have, like, a period kind of face.
Absolutely. She kind of looks like that Dutch girl painting,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
but prettier.
in recent years, she's, like, you know, kind of doesn't take a whole lot of, roles anymore. She did actually graduate from Columbia. She's like one of those actresses that, like, seems like she really got into it, to be an actress. Like, it doesn't seem like she really ever had very much interest in, like, celebrity, which I can appreciate about her, you know?
Well, that's a kind of more craftsman, right? Like more like East Coast style of acting. Like you're serious about your craft and you kind of take it more, you take yourself a little more seriously, maybe. And I'm not saying that in a negative. I'm just saying it's a little different, perhaps, than like the kind of LA famous by any means necessary crowd.
Yeah, I mean, she's from New York. She was born in the city, and as far as I can tell, still lives in the city. So she definitely has that more, you know, um, kind of East Coast style of acting. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I wanna say about the film. I mean, I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's like a forever twin.
He was really sweet. He was really funny in this and very sweet. I found it very sweet, his character, because she could have gone for Joey. There was like a couple moments there where she could have, and she actually chose his character. And that's kind of interesting if you want me to comment on that, because they actually have two different archetypes. Joey would be more of the archetype of Mars, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt would be more of the archetype of Mercury. So she ends
Hmm,
up choosing the prince over the king, you could say.
interesting.
Mhm.
They actually did date in college. They both went
They
to
did?
Yeah, yeah.
I like them together. They had good, so that was like real chemistry in a way.
Yeah, there was some real, chemistry there. I mean, he's so cute, and you know, he's been in a lot of also intense movies, a lot of gay ones, actually. Um
I've seen very few of anything he's ever been in, and so, like, people talk about him, and I'm totally clueless. But, I think that I liked her because I did watch Alex Mack, and I I don't know, I that's what I thought was cool.
I'm surprised, have you not seen Brick with Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
No.
I think you'd really like it. You should watch it. I mean, talk about a film that has some sort of weird esoteric stuff about it, because it's basically this like hard-boiled detective story. It's set in a California suburb, but like even though it's like even though they're like all teenagers, they're like all kids, they speak in like they almost speak as if they're like, you know, in a Los Angeles noir film from like the 1940s. Does that make sense?
It sounds cool, actually, and I did mean to say Alex Mack. So she had psychic powers, and like because I was a weird kid, I also wanted
Oh, I loved Alex Mack too.
yeah, psychic powers slash stigmata. I used to really be into that. So yeah, that was what that appealed to me greatly. The psychic power thing. Quicksilver, the Quicksilver girl.
Oh yeah,
Kind of interesting.
I definitely wanted to be able to melt into goo and sort of like you know, float around. What do you think about, I'm just gonna like turn the topic for a minute.
Sure.
What do you think about like kind of like what are some of your reads on like this Israel Iran thing going on right now? I know that's a hard turn,
No,
but
not at all.
there's
It's
some
something I've been thinking about.
yeah,
Yeah, so okay, so Q, I do these Gonzo Gnostic spaces on Fridays. I'm sure you've maybe seen one of the posters or whatever.
yeah.
And so I already have sort of addressed what I think, or like speculatively what I think. So my response was, I think the archons only know how to lie. So I think I'll
Mhm.
respond with that. So I think it's all fake and gay.
Yeah.
And I really only care, my commitment is only to like what I'm calling like speculatively the new world. It's the only
Okay.
thing I'm really interested in. But I feel like it all these things are very I don't want to call it distractions because I think that's very like boomer speak because I don't think that's necessarily encapsulating of like exactly what they are, but I do think they're diversions away from things that we could be focused on or ideas that we should be cultivating. So for me, that's how I interpret the current events. I think we're in an aeon of decoherence. I've argued this anyway, that we're in a new aeon, not Kali Yuga anymore, and we've gone into this different aeon, the aeon of the daughter, and we are in a time of decoherence. And so a lot of things around us won't necessarily carry forth meaning or have logos. So we have to cultivate like our own lives in order to kind of refine or be able to view the logos, the meaning. I know that was quite out
No,
there.
it's helpful for me because like, you know, I've like significantly reduced my Twitter consumption at this point. Like I'm like on my alt and you know, I'm trying to just be less online in general. But from what I
Which
can
is
tell,
good and healthy.
yeah. I mean also I like don't give a shit about being like a Twitter like internet celebrity or anything like that.
No, it's really quite meaningless to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me and I haven't cared about it in a long time. But I mean like at least a year, I would say. I sort of gave up that one-time mission of mine. But like, you know, there seems like there's two um camps. Like there's like the nothing never happens camp, and then there's
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
the you know the camp that's like, see, we told you like Trump is bad, and you know this is
Yes,
like
yes.
and
Okay.
like and like those are the two camps I've kind of noticed, and like um I just can't like really tell. I mean, to me, it's like I just can't. I can never tell when something is like real in the sense that it's
Real.
have these like
Mhm.
huge big implications, or when something is not real. By which I mean I think like real bombs are falling. I'm just like, but it's like not.
Well, I have a question about that, but
Sure, tell me about that. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm absolutely saying that there's something happening, whatever that may be,
Right.
however superficial or not that layer is. I just the some of the images I have seen have clear Kabbalistic implications. So whatever you want to think of that, I just think that it's something strange. I'm going to choose to sort of like I've seen like those camps too, Q, and just to be honest, and it's not that I know. I don't know. I'm not smarter or better than anyone. I really am not. Like I kind of play that role a little bit, but I don't think of myself like that. But what
Mhm.
I do know is that I'm just going to choose to believe what I can at least tangibly or in a metaphysical way, like relate to, and give my attention and my will to those things. So in terms of like a division, like I like Trump. Oh, I always liked Trump. Like that was my kind of thing. He got in. I understood what it was. It's kind of like some people call it Masonic theater. That's totally fine. It is. I agree. But I also think we can apply kind of like there are moments we can sort of apply this our will to certain political acts. My friend Solar calls it meta politics. So that's what I did. So I liked someone. I didn't do anything else but like him, and then he, became what it is. So it is what it is. That's how I feel about it. I know that's very like it sounds like I'm sort of walking away from it, but I'm not. I can't control anything else outside of my own sphere of influence, is the truth. So for me to like care about desert people in any place in the world is not how I view the universe. It's not because I don't have like loving kindness or compassion or mercy. It's just because I just choose to like reframe where I put my attention. So my attention is more on myself, my house, my family,
Of course.
etc.
I mean, that's how I live too. I mean, I just, I always just I've only really ever scratched the surface of esoteric stuff, but I know there's people who say like, World War II was the result of like, these people like Crowley and stuff like playing with like, really bad, like bad, like dark, like occult magic and things like that. And
Let's get into that. Let's get into that a little. Because
I
I
mean, I
think
don't
I
know.
can Gnostic pill you. I think I can Gnostic pill you on this question.
I mean, you can try. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know anything about it, so I can't really talk about it. You would have to like kind of tell me about it, because I just hear these little things, and then like when I see something like what's happening on the news, I think
Absolutely.
someone else messing with the wrong shit again,
I don't want to talk at you, Q, but we can have a dialogue. But I just think that there's an esoteric layer in all religions, really, and all religions kind of reach different conclusions, if you want to call it that, but they can all be mappable onto the same kind of framework. And so one of the ideas in Aeon of the Daughter, not just my idea, but like more broad ideas, is that it's Mary Magdalene.
Mm-hmm.
Because Catholicism also has that kind of meta religion. You want to call it Egyptian or Iranian or Babylonian or pre-Diluvian or whatever it is. It kind of contains those kernels of truth, and you kind of have to find it. And some people thought, well, we're going to find it in this metaphysical layer, this layer that has both meaning and no meaning, because it's all about how you understand it. I know that's kind of like out there sounding, but I think it makes sense in terms of what we see, in terms of the news and events, both real and not real. Is that it doesn't matter. It's just a presentation of reality. We get to choose. We are free agents in the world, and so we have to orient ourselves to what we think is closest to the truth.
Okay. I mean, that all
Does that
makes
make
sense.
sense?
Yeah, of course. So what do you think that has to do with like the World War II stuff and like the kind of like dark sort
Well,
of
Crowley had some interesting ideas. I'm not a Telemite by any means. I'm really not. But he did have some interesting ideas. And I think that there are I've called it a magiocracy, and I personally think this is also true. There are people who understand metaphysics who definitely play a role in the construction of the world and like its presentation to us. But we're at a time in our lot, like in history or whatever, we're in the Aeon that we can access all of the things that we want to basically online. And I'm not talking about AI or anything like that, but you can access so many different books, so many different things. And I'm not saying people will perfectly understand it, because they won't, but they can access it. So Crowley was more of a, he said, oh, I'm going to liberate knowledge, or liberate the kind of secrets from the secret society. So that was his whole big thing. He was going to like go in, he's going to be a Discordian, he's going to throw everything into chaos, into decoherence. And he did. But then they kind of brought it back into this institutional framework, very similar to the history of the church. If you want to think of it, it's just like a micro history. That Crowley himself, he saw himself as the great disruptor, the beast, right? But he's not talking about the beast necessarily in Revelations or anything. That's more of a LARP. It's more of the beast as an archetype. It's more of the beast as he's going to take these institutions, these like decaying things with these old guys, old troons, practicing their like old fashioned, like medieval magic, and he's going to throw it into chaos, and he's going to like see what arises from the ashes. So I think that he did that, but then they brought things back into an institutional frame, like the OTO, or like Astrum Argentum, or like Golden Dawn, or like any of those bigger magical organizations. But then you had the chaos magicians come along in the 90s and being like, you know, there are some really evil guys doing magic, and we're going to throw all the magic out there. We're gonna make sure it's all published. So as I've noted on other episodes, the CIA is actually the biggest publisher of esoteric material on the internet, because you can go onto their site and read many, many grimoires, many, many texts on magic, as well as the Internet Archive is also the same. So they put this all out there. So supposedly their idea was, it's very Luciferian, is that we would have the knowledge through which to liberate ourselves or the world or whatever their idea is. Very millenarian, right? Like, I'm not a millenarian person. Like, I don't think the world's coming to an end. And I think that goes back to your question about like the missiles in Iran. Is that,
Right.
and Israel, whatever. So it either or doesn't matter. I'm like, I do not take any side. I like don't care. That's my real politic, if you want to call it that, for that situation. Because I'm not a third worldist, and I'm not a Zionist either. I like neither nor, right? So I take no position. So the reality is, I think it's not really real, but I think it's like a way that they retell the stories of the past, and they try and encapsulate it, and we have to kind of discern our way out of it. Some people call it simulation theory. I believe in free agency. Simulation theory makes it, to me, sound like God isn't real. So I agree that God is real. So first premise, I guess. Secondly, I think we have free will and agency in this world. And this world in particular, this realm, you could say, is ours. So I believe that we get to believe in what we want to believe in. And that's kind of American too, in a way, which is kind of interesting and a paradox.
Yeah. I mean, I guess simulation theory is like, I don't know. I've always understood it as not necessarily God isn't real, but like technology is God, you know? Which it says
They definitely conflate the two. There's a clear conflation.
Which it seems like these like techno-futurist, like transhumanist people, like kind of like basically do believe, you know? I mean, I've been like interested recently, and again, I'm not like a deep, you know, reader about stuff like this, but I've been interested recently in like this idea that seems to sort of be percolating amongst like the tech right, which is like, you know, I literally think they're trying to sort of bring the Antichrist like into reality. Like, I feel like
they would like to do that. There's definitely an idea. And so this even goes back to like that kind of chaos magic and Crowley, and that intersection of like remixing stories, because that's what they're all interested in. From Temple of Set upwards, they're either Lovecraftian, Hyperborean, Atlantean. They're interested in all of these science fiction and parafictional, and even by extension, because of Elrond, he created like a whole cosmology from science fiction or speculative fiction. So you could call what Elrond did specifically a metafiction, because he created like a world that exists within ontology, cosmology, and ideology itself.
Yeah.
Right? So he constructed like a whole reality that a lot of people believe in. And the thing is this is also true of space. Like I'm not a space is fake person. Like I don't know. But for me, there is something, if you understand Kabbalah to any degree, you understand that the physical manifestations of the planets are actually the negative quality. Not the negative in space, but the negative quality of what Kabbalah is. Kabbalah is only good, like it's only God at a pristine quality, and the planets are actually physical manifestations, right? So it's not to say that we reject or they reject the body in any way. It's just saying that what those things are and their specific meanings. So the planets themselves are containers for those deeper meanings. And you can say that the modern astronomy, as it is presented, is a kind of space Kabbalah. I've called it that before. So I just think it's interesting because everybody understands, to a degree, similar things, but they might call it or speak in a very different language to reach certain conclusions, parallel conclusions. I don't know, just an idea. I'm sorry, Q. I didn't mean to go on about that.
I mean, this is
Just an idea.
fascinating. Like this is fascinating. Like I'm having more fun listening to this than I was talking about 10 things I hate about you.
Well, it goes back to that because I'm gonna even don't steal my title, Q, but I'm going to name the episode 10 things I love about Qlipoths. And I actually had already decided that I was going to name it that
Okay.
before you even came on recording.
Okay.
Because this idea in Kabbalah is that you break Qlipoths. Qlipoths are neither bad nor good in
I
and
don't
of
even,
themselves.
can you back up a second? I don't even
Okay.
know what that is.
Okay. Okay. So a Qliphoth is like a vessel. You can think of it. You can think of it just like a vessel. Like there wasn't even when you were describing the movie, there was an I guess something you related, and I was like, that's a vessel. But I forgot now what it is. But you could think of it as a clay vessel. So a vessel is inherently empty, right? It just contains something. But you can break a clay vessel, right? So if I write a word on the outside of a clay vessel and I say it's filled with wine, so I write wine on the outside, but the inside really either has water or nothing. Okay. You don't know until the vessel's gone, until you actually can see inside the vessel. So the whole idea is that you break the vessel so you can sort of see what is actually inside, see the truth. So that is what a klipa is. But if you start to worship, like this is where the prohibition in the Bible really comes from. This is the real meaning, like the for real naga meaning, you could say, is that the prohibition against worshiping the statues is because you don't want people to worship the husk of God. You don't want people to worship the kind of statue that is filled with the ideas of everyone who practices that religion. You want it to be pristine. It's not to say that in Catholicism is wrong to use images of the saints or Jesus or Mary. It's not. It's really so people don't worship the hosts, meaning likenesses of God. This is also why in Catholic iconography you never see, or very rarely, sometimes in Mexican Catholicism you will see God pictured, but it's very rare. It's because the idea is that God is so ineffable that to even depict him would actually bring him into negative aggregation.
Well,
into physical.
that's like the prohibition in Islam too, right?
It's a little different. It's a little different. But it is similar because what the Jews were doing especially for the Old Testament example, they were actually worshiping the angels, the planetary hosts, the actual planets themselves.
Right.
So
Well, I know that like ancient Judaism was not monotheistic.
no, so even our angels that we use in contemporary time, they were worshiping those angels. The whole thing is never to worship the hosts, but to worship God only.
Right.
However, there's a whole in the New Testament, a new covenant is kind of formed, right? So there's a new relationship that can be negotiated and that becomes the religion. So basically, both Orthodoxy and Catholicism say the icons are okay, and they've resolved this in a way that I would describe as Kabbalistic. Maybe they wouldn't. Obviously, Orthodoxy would because they clearly understand some things. But No, they've negotiated a new relationship so they can have images because it's not necessarily of those things because they're saying we're venerating, right? You never worship. Like I knew this as a kid. You don't worship the statue. You venerate God and you ask the saint to intercede on your behalf, but you don't actually worship the saint or the statue. I don't
Right.
know. That's how I always knew.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, I remember, in Catholic school and stuff, they always, because like they were like obviously talking to us about the difference between Protestantism and Catholicism, and they would always say that, worshiping Mary was wrong, or no, like Protestants said
Yeah,
that.
Protestants love to say that, but
Yeah, but like,
Protestants
but
then they sorry, Q.
no, just like my teachers would tell us, like you're asking Mary to pray on your behalf, like that's what that's what you're doing.
But see, in a magical sense, Q, you have to have her as an archetype. Magic is all about archetypes. That's why fiction's a great vehicle for magic. That's what I'm trying to say about like how the world is presented. Because you could say it's all a fiction, but there's things that are in fiction that contain kernels of truth. So going back to the film, there are archetypes in the film that you and I recognize from being millennials who went to high school, like whatever kind of high school we went to. There are archetypes of people or of situations or of things, or even like I recognize the French textbook they use. So it just is. I just think that there's a kind of language that is understandable to a degree, like depending on how much you are immersed in that world. Does that make sense? And so that's what I think a lot of war and like especially since 2020. I think it's very like we're in a weird Saturn Neptune conjunction, if you want to think of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Neptune is, you could say, is acidic, like very acidic, like at the most acidic point of alchemy. Okay. And Saturn is at the most dense. So it is sometimes likened to a ball of lead. That's one way you could understand it. Okay. So when you apply the acid to the lead, it actually liquefies and turns extremely corrosive. So I'm just giving an allegory to how the astronomy can be understood. So that means in a more metaphysical or metaphorical way that we live in a time of great confusion. We can't tell what is real or what is not real. And Neptune is very much the lord of confusion in that way. I hope that makes sense. I apologize if it doesn't.
No, I mean, I'm fascinated. I'm just listening, and it does make sense, but it's also like the way you talk, which is good for me, is it just kind of like opens doors in my brain. You know what I mean?
I
So
never want to talk at someone. That would be
no,
honestly my nightmare. Okay.
I
Okay.
like learning from you. I enjoy this stuff. It makes me feel what's the
Well,
word?
I
It
always
makes
think of you when
it
I
takes
post Mary Magdalene. I just want to say
Mhm.
that because
Okay.
I'm always like, this is a very Catholic friend. It's a very Catholic kind of framing to explain the exact same story that exists in Tolima, that exists in all these other like ideas. And it's like, how do you rectify that idea? And I think that the Mary Magdalene story is particularly interesting to me because it is clearly retold in the Avalon sort of like King Arthur mythos as well. So you kind of have these parallel stories, and it's like, how do they get rectified? Well, if you think of it axially, so those stories were told in the Aeon of the Son, which would be like Jesus. Then now we're in the Aeon of the Daughter. So we kind of have to take the story from her perspective. I just think that's kind of cool from a literary, like a way to frame a literary work is like the meaning changes depending on the way you view it, obviously, your
Of
standpoint.
course. Of course. And Mary
I don't know.
Magdalene
Maybe I
is
was
like one of my
sorry. You
favorite
go ahead.
but no, Mary Magdalene is one of my favorite figures because I do think she shows like kind of what I think is the core of Christianity, which is like to be merciful of others and to turn the other cheek and things like that, which is like something I strive for, even though I think it can cause problems because by endlessly uh I never really cut anyone out of my life or anything like that. And that, but whatever. I mean, it's like kind of the credo that I live by,
It's interesting because if you think of it from the Gnostic perspective, it is exactly like what you said. Like she embodies all of those, the best possible qualities. Love, you could say, if it's like just one, if you're just going to pick one. And Christ used to be more represented wearing a red sash or a red robe. This is really particularly interesting from a metaphysical angle because this references the fire of force or strength. So it actually would have been more of that kind of Roman energy. But then you see later on, he starts to be associated with the blue, with his more of mercy, as a word you said. But then the Catholics came along in the 16th century and added in some Kabbalah and mixed it up with the Rosicrucians, and they started to depict him as Christ with the Sacred Heart, he who has the red robe and the blue robe, and then in together there's his heart, which is golden. So if you want to think of it like that, I know that was kind of out there, but I just go with me here. I think that you can say that the daughter represents like the love, but he's brought both things into synthesis as the perfect teacher. That's kind of what the idea of is the bringing the fire and the water together. So he becomes literally the sun as SUN, but he is also the sun SON. And Mary Magdalene's iconography is a crystal vial. It's very important for her. And sometimes it's said that her tears are inside. There's an alchemical story about the tears of the maiden, and the maiden is always represented by the moon. So it can be subtly represented in a painting, even if it doesn't have her in it at all, just by the appearance of the moon. So the whole idea is it's like she's the moon, she's subtle, she's hidden, just like Mary Magdalene, and then but she is also love, and then she comes into the sun, and he is the great, you could say, illuminator, but his illumination is subtle because it's both the fire and the water. I don't know. I'm sorry, Q. I've talked a lot about this on Friday Night Spaces, so I thought I'll bring a little bit for Q.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, it's all interesting. And it does put me in a perspective of like almost like worrying less about like, what's going on in the
We
world.
can only control ourselves. I can't even control what other people believe. I can't even control myself sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that we're like often like a mystery to ourselves, We can only
Mhm.
all we can do is like try to learn ourselves as best we can, which is a difficult,
Forged in love.
yeah,
Resolution of the film as well.
yeah, definitely.
Because we only know who we are in sort of like the opposition, right? Like
Yeah,
the opposition is another person's perspective. Oftentimes, it's like it's contrary to our own. Even if we get along with that person amazingly well, sometimes it's like opposing because it's never exactly the way we see things.
right. Um,
So you have to struggle. You have to have a struggle session.
yeah, no, I agree. I I hear all of that. Um, what else did you want to cover in this episode?
Well, I want you to tell me about Twink Death, even though it is a great name, like legit great name, hilarious. What have been some of your the craziest people that you've covered and the most interesting factoids?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I love true crime. We have, covered the Menendez brothers. We have
Okay,
covered
Menendez, were they together?
we don't think so. I mean, like we kind of give our theory on like that's just sort of like a gay male kind of like fantasy that these like two hot brothers would have been like doing something together. I mean, there was definitely
Q, you understand metafiction because that's a kind of metafiction, depending on your perspective, right? So
yeah,
you
and
broke it.
families where there's in families where there's incest, I mean, I think there is like incest all over, but I don't think they were together in the way that like the shows like to depict, you know.
More sensationalizing.
Yeah, and we've done John Wayne Gacy, and we have also just done some films. Like, I think you'd really like this film. We did a film on the like new Lucy Liu movie, like the haunted that haunted house movie called Presence. Um
I'll have to listen to that for
you should,
sure.
yeah, you should watch the film. You would like it.
Okay, I will.
It's very short. It's like maybe like 80 minutes, but it's told from the perspective of sort of like the ghost haunting the house, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting because like, you know, you're seeing everything from like the presence's perspective. So the way the film looks is very weird. And yeah, you do kind of, and I think you would like it because it has some ideas of spirits being, you know, out of time. Like, you know, the spirit isn't necessarily in the same, like the time doesn't work in the afterlife the same way it works here.
That's very astute, Q, because that's exactly that Saturn Neptune metaphor I tried to make for you. That's what you could think of. Time is Saturn, and then Neptune is outside of time. So they come into conflict.
Yeah, it has some interesting, yeah, it has some interesting ideas about time, like time not being linear and things like that.
Time's definitely not linear from
I
my
don't think so
perspective.
either. Yeah, I mean, I recently rewatched True Detective, and I always think about the time
That's a
stuff.
very cyclical. They promote it like I would say it's like has a dharmic element in that film. Like there's a
Definitely. I mean,
cyclical, you know, there's all these things that are reoccurrent in the world. I think that's true for
yeah,
me.
Matthew McConaughey's character is like obviously like kind of like an esoteric like bro character in a way. Um
Recognizing correspondences in the universe.
Yeah, although I like sometimes I'm like, you know, I sometimes think True Detective has been like a little bit overhyped. Although I love it, I think
I've
that
only
first.
seen the first season,
No,
so
me too. I only care about the first season, and I feel like I've never really watched any of the other seasons all the way through. I just sort of think like sometimes I think that the first season is you know, people are like, oh, it was so amazing. And I'm like, I don't know, was it so amazing? But that's also probably because it's been memed to death at this point. You know what I mean? Anyway, whatever. Those are that's what we do on Twink Death. We mostly review movies and TV shows. On the last episode, Bicky sort of tried to like red pill me on Harvey Weinstein is innocent.
I kind of agree with Vicky, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I mean, his stance was like not that like Harvey Weinstein is a good person. His stance
No.
is just that like Harvey Weinstein is like not was at least with the evidence from the trial. That's what
Well, that's what matters, right? Because that's
yeah,
like what is
we give
in
a lot of
contention.
we give a lot of caveats, but like we just look at the evidence from the trial, and at least with the evidence of the from the trial, there's a huge amount of reasonable doubt that he's like, you know, guilty of rape or anything like that. So you know, that's an interesting episode because we really get like kind of, well, Bicky in particular, and gets deep into the trial transcripts. We try to do this thing, you know, I've never done a podcast alone like you do, and I think I think it's very brave, but one thing that we've figured out in Twink Death is that only one of us can do research so that we don't interrupt each other, so that the other person is just learning from does that
Oh,
make
that's
sense?
great. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I tried to do with Twyman. Like the Twyman series that I did was like the boys would present to me information. I mean, I did read it beforehand, but it was kind of like they didn't know what I would say.
right.
So they would let them present to me information and then I would like respond on the spot. So I thought that made it kind of interesting. And I like that. I like that approach. So I think that confirms in one way, at least, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's what Twink Death's about. And
Explain to me your Twitter. You don't have to explain like why you're on an alt or anything like that, but explain to me this idea because I'm going to be honest, Q. I don't understand a lot of your posts. Like I think they're cool and often funny, like especially the cutting ones. but I don't like a lot of the references, like when you'll talk about like this thing or this thing, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
Like
I'm like
zero.
I'm like so much more immersed than like in like pop culture than you are. Like, I think that's when I realized, like, when I stepped away from like trying to have, sort of a very specific like Twitter persona. Like I'm just like really like I'm like a pop culture commentator, and I have like an edgier bent than like the average pop culture commentator, but that's like all I really care about. Like I love TV, I love music, I love like, getting into arguments about like what the meaning of Britney Spears for the culture or whatever. So that's,
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I'm trying to stay out of like, and it's almost impossible once your account gets big enough, but like,
mhm.
I'm trying to stay out of like any sort of, I just don't want to be like feuding with anyone on Twitter, and
Yeah, 100%.
I don't want anyone to like, and it actually works. Like I realized if you just don't.
If you don't engage, they won't engage with you. 100%.
Yeah, like I still have people like quote tweet me or like comment under my posts, and like, I realized what I would used to do is I would like say something back, and the next thing you know, you're like in this back and forth. But you could just say nothing, and most of the time, that's where it ends. And it's been a much healthier way for me to engage with
Yeah, I
Twitter.
agree. I
So
totally
that's
agree. I've also calmed down with the quote tweeting and the acerbic discourse, we could say.
Yeah, it's just easier. It's like an easier life. And it's like the rewards are so small. Like, like becoming, I guess, I mean, I'm going to reactivate the old account at some point, but like, the old account, like at its peak, maybe had like close to 9,000 followers, which in Twitter world isn't even like a big following. Like, right.
No,
Like,
no,
uh,
totally.
so, but like, it was enough that like, I was like in the crosshairs of like, sort of like the gay Twitter like podcast sort of circuit, like,
Right.
and I
I don't
just
follow any of those people.
yeah, and I just didn't, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna become like a famous like podcaster. Like I work a lot and I work hard to make a lot of money, as much as money as I can. As much not a lot of money, but
Good
like
for you too.
no, not a lot of money, but to make as much money as I can, because like, I am in a position where I have, family I have to support, and like, so it's like I just kind of, I guess I just sort of like grew up. Like I'm just like, you have to just
You have to at one point, some
yeah,
point.
and like the odds of I don't know, like what's the best case scenario? Like even like Red Scare or something like that, it's like that's not like is there like a retirement plan there, or do they just have to like hope it'll go for as long as it can? I mean, maybe they've made enough money that they're really okay, but it's so hard. Like there's one, maybe two in that space that like get to that point, and then there's for every one that gets there, there's 1,000 that don't, and it's just
Absolutely.
it's like
That's why this show is totally free because it is just my like it's my art project, my like
yeah,
legacy,
I
right?
think you have to do it for free. I think the idea that like, I think that anyone who's trying to make money on Twitter it's going to be really, 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 really hard.
Yeah, it
And
definitely.
the odds that you're going to make enough money to quit your day job are so slim. And it's like becoming a celebrity, you just,
100%.
and I'm just kind of like, I used to like think that was like where I wanted to go, but it's like,
Because it seemed really fucking cool for a
of
minute.
course, of course. I mean, no way. I mean, I'm not even gonna pretend that it doesn't.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. That I've never thought about it or like
Yeah,
even like aspired to it. Of course, that would be a big lie.
yeah, of course it seems awesome. Like, of course, I think of, like when I got into Red Scare, I was like, oh my God, they make a once a week podcast, and they like, are able to live off that. And like, good for them. Like, I do think
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I do think that's
Get
cool.
your
They
bag.
I'm
100%.
yeah, I'm still a big fan, but um, the truth is like it's much easier there's a lot of ways to make money off of Twitter. And if your goal is, just to like be financially secure, which the older I get, that's more I care about.
See,
Then
it's interesting, isn't that our parents were kind of right about some things.
oh yeah. I mean, I was so dumb. Like the number of years I spent thinking like, oh, I need to be like cool. Like I need to like write a
Like what that means.
yeah, like I need to like write a novel or I need to like try to get a cool job. Like that was all like so retarded and dumb. Like I really should have just like majored in finance and like you know what I'm like looking back, I would like slap my younger self.
It kind of makes sense now, doesn't it? Like everyone hustling for their like we call it BCom here. So all those like guys, because it's like the entry to your MBA, right?
I mean, yeah, everyone I know, I mean, I certainly know so many normies who like got that memo way younger and like they are like they are like in such better, positions than I am. I mean, I am not even, to be clear, I'm not even in a bad position, but like if someone like, if like my sister needed to borrow like $2,000, like that would be like hard for me to do, and it's like, I wish I was in a situation where like I could like easily be generous with friends and like not even worry about it. That would be incredible, and I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to
Yeah, you have to work.
I'm getting there 10 years later than
we're the broken generation. That's exactly it took us 10 years longer to get everywhere else. That's what I think.
But all things considered, it's going fine. But that's like my Twitter journey, and now I just don't give a shit about it like at all.
That's the healthiest.
Yeah, I literally just I use it to stay in touch with friends.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a tweet makes me laugh, but it's pretty rare these days. The timeline's pretty bleak. And yeah, that's where I'm at. That's just,
Okay, well, not to put you on the spot, but I thought maybe, just maybe, you could list 10 things that you love as like a way to close us out. Yeah, things that you love.
Okay, I can do it. I'm gonna like take my family and stuff and God off the table.
Okay. That's fair. I agree with that because that's a given, right?
That's a given, yeah. But I'll give 10 sort of like things that I think I love that everyone should like maybe. I'll mostly do media. So
perfect.
I love Eyes Wide Shut. I love My Year of Rest and Relaxation, the novel. I love the TV show The Outsider, which I think should have gotten a lot more attention. It's a Stephen King book made into a film. I love The Empty Man, which you can watch on HBO. I love reading about nobility. So if I were you and you want to feel good and cozy, I would go get like some giant books. Like I have this book here right now of like pop history called The Shadow Empress, which is I would just get stuff like that. I love feathered duvets. I think it's important to have a duvet on your bed and it should be really comfortable. I love king beds. I think you should try to get a king bed in your life if you don't have one already. I love floor lamps. I think floor lamps are really important to health and happiness. And I love what's something I like? I always like redo. I love fantasy novels. I think you should read one fantasy novel every year.
I agree. J. David Osborne came on the show, Q.
Oh, that's amazing.
You can read his book. Or Kelby's coming on. Not yet, but it's happening. So maybe you could read his book.
Yeah, I would. I should. I have so many books, but I should. And the last thing I love is islands. I think it's important to go to an island once a year.
I agree. I live on an island, but
yeah, you should go to. Yeah, if you don't live on an island already, you should visit an island at least once a year.
I agree. I could use a warmer island. That's like in the future, maybe.
Yeah, and I think self-care is just, like, lowering your those are the 10 things I love. I think self-care is just lowering your cortisol. That's, like, all that's important. So,
I agree with
I think
you.
whatever lowers your cortisol, you should do if that's smoking weed or whatever, like, don't let anyone, like, meme you into, like,
No, I agree. Well, I smoke weed and garden at the same time, so I
sure,
bring both things into
whatever.
synthesis, right? Like, not I don't leave it just by itself. I don't just like sit there malding like on weed. I like go do something.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you have to lower your cortisol, and if that's,
Both of those things are my peak. That's peak Kino for me.
yeah.
That's just
I mean,
Jen
for
though.
me, it's probably, like, taking a benzo and, like, watching, like, a horror movie, like, that really does lower my cortisol. So, you should do that if that's what
A
whatever.
hundred, yeah,
Yeah,
I totally agree.
keep yourself calm. That's my advice, so.
I'll have to do a benzo sometime and get back to you.
Alright,
See how that
let me
goes.
know.
And so thank you so much, Q, for doing this with me. Really fun. I actually had a lot of fun.
I did too. I did
Like it's not a surprise that we get along because I always feel like you kind of get me because you also have your Asian siblings or Hapatorian
It's
as we
true.
call them on
It's
Twitter.
true.
And so I always feel like, yeah, I'm kind of safe with Q in the way that like you kind of like already account for the Asianness. So you're like, okay, I kind of know
Yeah.
where Jen's coming from. Okay.
Love Asians. Stop Asian hate.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you. Do you want to plug yourself if you want to?
Sure, I mean, either of my accounts are Gnostic Oblivion is at Gnostic Oblivion,
I
and then
love
my
that
other
one.
my other account is at Twink Theory, which will be up and running probably next week again.
That was the most funny when you change your actual like name, like your header name or whatever.
Yeah, no one knows who I am anymore. Yeah,
I know.
it
It's
happens.
smart. Really smart.
I try to
Thank
keep
you.
I try to keep out of the I try to keep the haters from finding me online. So
That's the way to, that's the way to do it. Maybe be
yeah,
a silver surfer in the
yeah,
world on the
yeah.
online web. Thank you so much, Q. Appreciate it.
All right, talk to
Have
you
a
later.
great night.